Hey everybody, Glenn here with a part 2 pre-grading video. We already put out the video for centering. Today we're going to look at corners. So to get started off, I'm going to get right into it. But please, if you like the channel, please make sure you subscribe right there to the channel, or go check us out on Facebook and like us. Could use all the subscribers I could get, so I really appreciate that. So this time, like I said, we're going to talk about corners. If anybody watched the first video on centering, you'll know that originally I started off with this 1953 Dante Lavelli, and then we also had a DPJ Select autograph, and unfortunately the centering on the back of that was terrible. Was only coming in at like a 9 or a 8 on centering. So obviously a card like that I'm not going to send in to get graded. So I did get this Brady Super Bowl Mosaic. Not the most high-end card, but it's more representative of like a current modern card. So I wanted to kind of have one of those in this. So this is the one I chose to replace the DPJ with. I graded this one out at a 9 on centering. So we'll see how it goes. This one I think was driven primarily top to bottom, if I'm not mistaken. So just to get that out of the way, now to start with, you can see right here in front of me I have this little microscope. What this is this is an Optitech scope model OTHD. I picked this up off of Amazon. It cost me like 60 or 70 bucks, I think. And essentially I used that to take a look at the corners. Now I did do a little pre-work because my last video got a little long, so I wanted to try to keep this one a little bit shorter. So I did go ahead and get images of all the corners ahead of time, but I wanted to show you guys how I do this. So essentially what I did is I actually took the microscope here off of the original base. It came with like a smaller aluminum base. This is what it came on. But as you can see, with the size of a card, it's really kind of hard to maneuver that and keep the card on there. So I did actually take it off of there, and I mounted it to like this clipboard essentially, which gives me the ability to then like put it on. I just use a piece of like foam board here to set the card down on that to move it around underneath the microscope. And it also has the ability to add light on the microscope. I don't know if you can see that there shining up, or reduce the amount of light. So we do use that a little bit as well. So I will go ahead and show you kind of how this looks, and then we'll just skip right into the criteria and what I saw. So first of all, let's get to the microscope. So this is kind of the view from the microscope. As you can see here, as I move in, you see right there's the corner of the card. I can then bring that into focus, and there you go. So now we're looking at one of the corners of this card. You can see that corner has a little bit of gloss, a little bit of fraying going on. Pretty common in an older card. That one is probably one of the better ones on this card. I'll go ahead and show you what the other corner looks like, to show you a good example of what I'd say a bad corner looks like, which is this one, which has a lot of discoloring on it, lots of loss on that particular edge. You can see as I bring in the light, or I take the light out, it changes a little bit how that looks. I can also maybe try to focus that a little bit better. Yeah, I see a little too much there. I mean, essentially you can see there's quite a bit of color loss, a little bit of discoloration, a little bit of rounding going on. So this was really the corner that dictated the grade for me in this particular case, just because it was so rough. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take you over and kind of show you how I broke down CSG's grading scale on corners. So let's go ahead and go over to here. So this is kind of what I've come up with based on dissecting their criteria. And you can see right here a 10 is pretty much flawless at 10 times, and then a pristine 10 is flawless, perfect with the eye, but then gem at 10 times 9.5 with the eye, subtle wear at 10. So we get into these kind of areas on more modern cards. Rarely going to see these types of corners on vintage cards, especially from the 50s, but they do exist. So then you can kind of see it goes up from there. So here you got 3 to 4 sharp corners by eye with slight imperfections at 10 times. Most of the time, especially on this card, we're going to be down in this 7, 7.5. You got a slightly dinged corner with 2 to 3 fuzzy corners. You know, a lot of this fuzziness and dinging and slight rounding is what you're going to get with a lot of older vintage cards. If you can find something that doesn't have that, then obviously, you know, all the better. But this card, as you can see by the two that I showed you, pretty much all kind of fell into this range. So what I do is I go through and I have, let me see if I can get this to blow up here. I go ahead and I kind of give everything, each corner a grade. So what I've got here is these are pictures that I came up with. That I took of each one of this is actually the back of the card. So you can see here, these are the 4 corners on the back of the card under magnification. So what I did was, in this particular case, I said, okay, the back of this card, at 1 slightly dinged corner, at 2 to 3 fuzzy corners, 1 to 2 sharp corner by eye with a slight imperfections at 10. So essentially, we had this fuzzy corner situation going on with those back corners. So, you know, we got fuzziness going on here, some fuzziness going on here, some fuzziness and a little bit of a damage going on here. And then this corner is what I would consider just slight imperfections. But in this particular case, you know, the one bad one, or the 3 fuzzy corners, is what really kind of drove the grade. So I'm saying based on the back corners, this would have got about a 6.5. That's about the best grade we could have got. Unfortunately, when we get up to the front side, so if I go ahead and take these pictures off, and then I'll throw up the front. Let's see, that's a front picture. That's a front picture. That's a front picture. I think that's a front picture. So there's my 4 front corners. So you can see this corner's got a little bit of discoloring, a little bit of gloss loss. Same thing up here on this one, a little bit more severe. This one, again, a little bit more severe going on with this little mark right here. And then this one being our worst one. So the corners on the front are much worse than the corners on the back. So when I went into the grading criteria, you can see here pretty much across the board I got worse grades. So you can see here, max 4 exhibit light fuzziness and very minor rounding. So this one is the one that, well, and actually this one with a slight rounding, 1 times 1 to 2 corners is what ended up driving the grade down here to the 4 to 5, which was really driven by this one right here. I mean, you can kind of see you got a lot of discoloration here. This corner is pretty much rounded off, whereas these corners at least have some structure of a corner there. They're just pretty fuzzy. But overall, I went ahead and said that this particular card would end up getting a 4.5 on that particular corner, which unfortunately, when you add all these up, that's really kind of driving the grade. So overall, taking all things into consideration, I think that this card is going to end up getting a 4.5 on corners. Now, that being said, let's take a look at the more modern card. So in this particular case, you can see here that I gave the Brady a 9. I think that Brady's going to get a 9. If we go ahead and blow up these scores here, just to kind of show you again where I was at comparatively. So let's go ahead and go back to our pictures here. Get rid of these ones. And we'll go ahead and bring up the Tom Brady ones, which we have right here. So this is more of what you would expect to see on a newer card. And I think this is the front, and I think these are both back. So basically, actually, let's go ahead and look at these one at a time. So this would be like a really good example of, you know, what a really nice corner looks like. Got a little bit of a ding going on there, but you got to remember this is a super magnification. This is a beautiful corner right here. Again, very magnified. Another nice corner. just really, really sharp corners, which is what you'd expect on an ultra modern newer card. The only thing I really saw, which I thought brought this down to a 9, is on this one you got a little bit of a thing going on there, but then this one here is the one that really kind of drove it home. If I blow that up, you can kind of see that there's quite a bit of like ding damage going on there. So under magnification, that's pretty significant on a modern card. You can barely see it with the eye, but once you get it zoomed in, it's pretty obvious. So what I ended up doing here was I ended up grading this sucker out, and you can see I had flawless subtle wear on most of these, but then there's 4 sharp corners with minor wear by eye. Like I said, that ding looks pretty rough when you look at it under magnification, but I can't even honestly tell you which corner that is on here now that I've got it out. So I can actually, let's go ahead and go back to the microscope here. And I'm going to slide this up under there and see if I can get a good image without having to take this out. No, I'm going to have to take it out. Okay. So let's go ahead and get this out of the sleeve and onto there. So this one, I think, nope, that's not it. That one's got a little bit of, so I think it's probably this one here. Yeah, there we go. So you can kind of see, get that zoomed in, right there is that damage. So just kind of a little nick, but again, this is under severe, magnification. So if we go ahead and go back to the main screen here, and I show you what this looks like, in real time. I don't know if I can get that to focus in on that or not. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to want to. No, that's not going to do it for me. Actually, you know what? Let me go ahead and take the auto zoom off, Let's go ahead and take the zoom off here and see if I can get it to show up for you. Okay. Let's try that now. So if I can get that up there as close as I can get it. There we go. Kind of see a little bit of a ding going on there, but it doesn't look that bad to the naked eye, really. Those are those 2 bottom corners. So you can definitely see it, but nothing super major. So I think in this particular case, because it is so subtle when it comes to what you can see by eye, that's why I went ahead and said that this was going to be a all 4 sharp with minor wear by eye, because I would classify that as minor wear, which I think is what's going to drive this to a 9. So you can see I gave it really good grades on every other aspect, but for that particular corner being so bad, I went ahead and said that would grade out a 9, and as a result of that, I'm going to end up giving it a 9 overall. So that is essentially how I do this. I find that it's probably a little bit overkill, and some people that watch this video are going to come back and say, wow, this guy's like nuts, going in with this microscope and looking at that level. And it really doesn't take that much time. And if you accept the fact that you're looking at it at like more than a 10-time magnification, you can kind of accept the fact that you're seeing a little bit more than what the grader's probably going to see. But I guess in my particular case, I would much rather see more and maybe grade a little harsher than see a little less and end up getting surprised by my grade. So overall, guys, that's how I do it. That's how I do my corners. Hopefully that was beneficial to you. Like I said, I can't recommend enough get one of these. Always an option when it comes to grading corners. A lot of people will get themselves a loop like this. That some of them have lights on them, some of them don't. I obviously would recommend getting one that has a light on it. There's no, well, you can kind of see that actually. Look at that. So you can kind of see there, that's, roughly what, they're going to be seeing under a 10-time loop. So obviously it's a lot different than what you're seeing under that microscope. I mean, it's still a lot better than the naked eye, but it's not nearly as magnified as what you're going to see under the microscope. So just keep that in mind. Like I said, in my particular case, I prefer to overgrade a little bit and set my expectations low and then get surprised by what I get back in return. So we'll see how it goes. So right now, this one I'm going to say is going to end up getting I believe it was a 4.5, unfortunately, on 4.5 on corners. And then this one I think will end up getting a 9 on corners. So like I said, once we're done, we're going to end up sending both of these cards in. This one, based on my centering and my corners, the best it's going to get at this point is a 9. This one, centering-wise, is really good with about an 8 on centering. We're looking at a 4.5 on corners right now, so hopefully we'll do a little bit better on the edges and the surface. And hopefully that'll get us up to at least a 5 as an estimate for what we'll get with this particular card. So, like I said, this is just part 2 of this series. So I will be coming back and doing another quick video on edges, which the edge video is going to be very similar to this. I use the same microscope for this. And then additionally, on surface, which I think is one of the hardest ones, especially on modern cards. So I'll be excited to get that up there and let you guys see how I go through the rest of my process. So again, that's it. I don't want to belabor the point at all. That was part 2 of the pre-grading. That's how I do my corners. So again, if you like the content, please make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys next time.